To celebrate the 250th birthday of this great nation, I thought it appropriate to browse through those baseball cards that celebrated not just the sport, but who we are as a country and culture. Baseball is America's game, and collecting baseball cards is America's hobby. The best start to your Stars and Stripes collection is through the Independence Day parallels that Topps has produced in recent years. This is Bryce Harper's 2026 Topps Independence Day parallel, but you can have one for your team and your favorite player too. These perfectly patriotic parallels have been around since 2018, and Topps seems committed to the subset for the foreseeable future. If that isn't enough patriotic power and you want to further boost your bi-sesquicentennial boxes, consider the 2026 Topps Now Team USA set from the World Baseball Classic, available of all the major stars from that team. Team USA cards go back more than 40 years at this point. 1985 was the seminal year for Team USA cards, with perhaps the most famous of them all, the 1985 Topps Mark McGwire, number 401. My favorite Team USA card is probably the 1988 Topps rookie of Mickey Morandini. He was a favorite player of mine when I was a kid, in small part because he put on the red, white, and blue before he put on the pinstripes. I've got Bryce Harper's 18 and under Team USA card in my collection too, although the colors aren't quite as 4th of July dazzling as the 88 cards were. Among the more ridiculous American card sets is this 1989 American flag set, which set the stars of the era over a background that is most definitely not the American flag. This is much more like the flag of Puerto Rico, or even Liberia. But I suppose those are minor details, right? More ridiculous still is this subset from 1991 Fleer. Buried in all that yellow is a little red, white, and blue. A 12-card All-American subset, the best of which is probably the Mark McGwire. The biceps, the cold, icy stare. I'm not sure whether he's preparing for a game or for battle, and I wouldn't want to face him in either. Another flag-centric set is the 1994 Fleer American Flag All-Star set, my favorite of which is the Ken Griffey Jr. Just because of the way Griffey's bat points to the star field on the flag, it makes me want to light a sparkler. Coming from the 19th century is this N557 Little Brody card from Cut Plug Tobacco's release of 1887. There are only a handful of known copies of this card, less than 10, and it's the closest thing you'll get to a Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue for 1887. She's holding a baseball bat, so even though Little Rhodey never played in the big leagues, I think this counts as a baseball card. And like Little Rhodey, I bet this card lifted a few bats back in the day. And speaking of the 19th century, at the same time tobacco companies were beginning to insert little pictures of baseball players into their cigarette packs to help sell more cigarettes, they were also doing the same thing with American presidents. The 1888 G.B. Miller N472 President's Tobacco cards are early America in perfect portraiture. Yum Yum Tobacco thought you might prefer our founding fathers to our fielding fathers. And they may have been right with Jefferson and Adams and Lincoln. But most people can't tell you who Chester A. Arthur was, let alone that he was President of America, let alone he was president from 1881 to 1885 following the assassination of James Garfield, when tobacco companies began to develop the idea of putting picture cards into their products in the first place. But you knew that. You totally knew that. The freedom that we celebrate on the 4th of July, on this the 250th birthday of America, or any other birthday of America, isn't free. And it never has been. Since its founding days, Americans have laid the ultimate sacrifice upon the altar of freedom so that we may grill burgers and drink some frosty beers in the safety and warm embrace of our families. Many cards from the 1950s recognize military service of ballplayers, like this 1952 Topps Eddie Waitkus that mentions he was awarded 4 Bronze Stars for bravery in World War II. Fleer issued a set in 1959 that included a number of cards featuring Ted Williams in his military uniform. My favorite of these types of cards, though, is the 1941 Gaudy Hugh Mulcahy, not just because it's a Phillies card. On this obscure card of an obscure player from an obscure set is a single line that sets everything into perspective. First major leaguer to be drafted by the U.S. Army. That's not a perspective we get from modern ball players anymore, and I wonder how many of them today would leave their big contracts and endorsement deals, put away their bats and gloves, pick up a weapon, and man a post. I wonder if our government would draft them in the first place, because in 1941, that's what ball players did. And speaking of World War II, the women of the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League picked up the slack when the boys went off to save the world. Though they didn't get cards at the time, a number of ways exist now to collect these beautiful babes of baseball. Most notably, Larry Fritsch Cards released entire sets of cards dedicated to the AAGPBL, which are delightful to collect and arguably as important as any baseball card of any player from that era. The Ted Williams Card Company also included some of these wonderful women too. Furthering the pursuit of cards honoring military service, it's easy to overlook the importance of the 1991 Topps Desert Shield cards. Topps made a scant few cards with the Desert Shield logo to send to servicemen and women in active combat so they could have a little piece of home. Topps made approximately 1 pack per soldier. Many packs never even made it to the recipients, and even fewer made it back stateside. We delight now when we see the Desert Shield, Chipper Jones rookie, and other examples from this set, but few, I think, reflect on why it exists in the first place. Another important subset came from 2001 Topps when they released the United We Stand cards following September 11, 2001 attacks. 9/11 stopped everything, and when baseball restarted, it was one of the few things around which the whole country could coalesce. President Bush threw a strike. We all hugged and started to heal. This subset represents one of the few moments in my lifetime when we were all one America. Maybe we can be that again someday, and without the need for catastrophe to make it so. But the card I think best represents the patriotism of the 4th of July doesn't have the flag on it, but it sure is every bit red, white, and blue. It's the 1949 Bowman Jackie Robinson rookie card. This card represents the very best of the promise of America. When Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier, baseball could finally be the American pastime for all Americans. Baseball cards could be the American hobby for all Americans. Following this baseball card, we quickly got many more cards of Black players, Hispanic players, Asian players, and so many others that every kid in America could look into a baseball card and see themselves in our greater fabric of democracy. Everybody belongs in baseball, and this card best represents that. Jackie Robinson famously said, "There's not an American in this country free until every one of us is free." For 250 years, America has slowly been expanding the meaning of freedom and expanding the rights enshrined in our Constitution to a broader plurality of huddled masses. The arc of history ever so slowly bending towards liberty and justice for all. For 250 years, America has been the shining city on the hill, and it's up to us to keep it there. Happy 4th to every American, and to all those that hope, above all else, to become so.